And so you did the segue, right? I want y'all to talk about, if you had to define the blues.
Oh, he just did. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. It's a feeling. There's nothing else. It's a feeling.
It's a feeling of heartache and pain.
Yeah.
It's in your soul.
It's in your soul. The music is all you have to grasp for.
Yeah,
For the situation
happiness also. Yeah. Happiness, because my dad always said you got two kinds. You got happy blues and you got sad blues. And that's what brought us over.
But we have to think about the period they was in.
Yeah.
We have to think about they didn't have anything else but their music.
Yeah.
That's why they poured everything into it.
Yeah.
Their heart and soul.
Yeah. It's just like quilting.
And it was all dance music also. All dance music.
And my grandfather used to say the blues just wasn't what you would say R&B. It was also gospel. Gospel was like the blues. It told a story.
Exactly. Well, the blues is the root
Yeah.
to all of the nation's music.
Exactly.
Jazz, gospel, R&B, reggae. It's the root.
Yeah.
It's like a tree.
Definitely.
And rock and roll.
It's like a tree. And it was definitely rock and roll because what was it? Elvis took Big Mama Thornton's song and made a mint, still making a mint.
That's funny that you say that. That's one of my memories. My grandmother saying, Elvis was on TV, and no disrespect to Elvis, but my grandmother, she was like, yeah, honey, that was Big Mama's song.
Yeah, that's Big Mama's song.
And I was like, wait a minute, what? And yeah, she did that hound dog before he did that hound dog before he did.
Yeah,
and you mentioned Elvis, and I have a funny story about Elvis. My grandfather always practiced in the backyard. We'll shade all of them. They would come in the backyard and they would practice. And there was this little white boy in the backyard one day, and he was just dancing and singing and dancing, and he was just going back and forth. My grandmother came out there and she said, "Who was that little white boy?" And my grandfather told her, he said, "Just one of them cheering out Field Street, just go on in the house and leave us alone." She's always, throwing that kind of music out. Get out of the yard. And she said, "That little white boy gonna get us all put in jail. You ain't got no business with him down there on Decatur Street." And to this day, me and my brother laugh about it because my grandfather told us stories. He said, that little white boy could have got us a mini Cadillac that was Elvis Presley. And, we think about it and we talk about it. And my grandfather used to eat those peanut butter banana sandwiches. And literally, my grandmother he wouldn't eat it. He would take it, push it away. If she didn't fry the bread and cut off the crust. So people don't know, Elvis bread the crust had to be off and the bread had to be fried. And I had some peanut butter the other day and I was just wishing for a piece of banana. And I had to went to the store and my husband got 2 big bunches of bananas because that's just what I want right now. It's just when I started thinking about coming here and it just took me back. But I'll never forget that I said, shucks, I could feel that Cadillac right now. But Elvis he did a good job at, I want to say imitating. And he was good. I'm not taking anything away from him. He was good, but he did a lot of imitating. My grandfather used to say he could gyrate better than anybody he ever seen in his life.
That's right.
And my grandfather, he wasn't a lover of singing. He liked playing his music, but he could sing. And looked like when he sang, it literally came from the soul, because they used to say he was a womanizer. Men back in those days, they had their time. I don't want to put my grandfather down, but he did his thing. And it was always about another woman. Always about what a woman did or what a woman couldn't do or what she could do for him. And it was one like Snake Trot. And it took me a long time to understand what that meant, but okay, now I know. But he was just that man that he just loved women. And his music was just all about life with women and what they could do and how they could do it, until he got a little bit more into it. Then he just started singing about life itself, and what he was feeling within himself. And he always told us, whatever you got inside of you, you bring it out in music. So I started singing. My brother likes to play music as far as records, but I sing, and I love singing. And my children sing. My granddaughters just started singing. But I've been singing as long as I can remember. I was singing with my grandfather when I got a little bit older before he passed, and he used to tell me, "Oh, shucks, you're going to be somebody someday." And I said, "Suppose I don't want to be a singer." He said, "You can be anything you want, but don't you ever stop singing." He said, "Because that's all we got." He said, "We got conversation. We talk all the time." He said, "But if we don't have anything else, that's all we got. People don't understand what we're saying when we sing." He said, "Because we're just not singing. we're telling a story.
Exactly.
And that's like she said, that's the root. That's just like gospel. That's the root.
Well, that's
where
why
it
they
comes
stopped us from singing in the fields, because we was telling
Stories.
stories. We was telling what time we were leaving. We were telling which way we was going. We was telling which trail we would be on.
That's right.
And that's why the master stopped us from singing in the fields.
It goes back to even gospel. We couldn't sing gospel because that wasn't their God. That was our own God.
Exactly.
You know, it was all just different to them. And even with the hairdo, like my hair is braided, but even with the braids told a trail and how to get here from here and there. Quilting.
Or either we stashed food, rice grains in our hair to
yeah.
keep us going while we was out in the woods.
And
But
then
it all-
the colors of the clothes
Yeah.
that you wash on them. When you put the red out, it's bloody. When you put the white out, traveling day. When you put the black out, travel by night.
Yes, Lord. And the quilting told the stories. But it all came back to music.
Exactly.
It all came back to music. And that's just something that it makes me just quiver inside. Just makes you feel good to know we just don't have a history. It's not just about black either. Not just about black. I remember one white guy, the last part was seen, but he was Jewish. And my father would go down on Beale Street and buy hats from, I can't remember the name of the store for anything, but that guy would be in there and all he played was the blues. All he played was the blues, and he was Jewish, and he was an avid Jewish person. He went to synagogue, all 9 yards. But I remember my dad asked him, me and my big brother was in there, and he said, man, all I hear is the blues when you come here. You don't have no other kind of music. He said, there is no other kind of music.
But you have to understand that everybody was going through their own period of change in time. It wasn't just black people didn't have. It was many other racial barriers for other people that was not of color as well, because some other people, the Italians, the Jews, and all original people went through times worse than what we thought that we were going through in the cotton fields and working for little or nothing. So the blues is not just a black thing. The blues is everybody thing, 'cause everybody out here done had the blues.
One way or the other.
And as we transition from more rural people to urban people, you know, what we encountered when we went to these large cities and these large urban centers was other, you know, of course, these large urban centers were also segregated.
Yeah.
Right? And so the people that we were going to live closest to were other ethnic groups. You know, the other ethnics like the Poles and the Italians and the Jews, right? Eastern European Jews and those folks. And so that is, you know, one of the ways that we see we're able to understand what is happening with these other folks, that they're also, especially again in these large urban centers, they're also working in these factories. That's right. And they're working and they're not making a whole lot of money. Right. And they're trying to make it with their families as well. And so those are the kinds of things that they had in common with us. Right? So blues is a feeling.
I don't disagree, but because I'm not a musician, I don't sing, I have no talent, I am talentless.
No, there's no one
You're a great
who's
speaker.
talentless.
Okay, let me just define this. I am the 10th of 14, okay, and my family, I have, all of them can sing. They can dance, they can do something, and I don't know whether the fact I never had an interest in it so much, but I don't do any of those things. What I'm doing and have been doing for the last 30 years is something, because I'm not music has been in my life it wasn't something that it's like, oh, I aspire to be this and this is what I'm going to do, because I didn't have those skills, you know. So if anybody would have told me this is what I would be doing for the rest of my life, I think you're crazy, you know. Doing this is, in my understanding of when you said blues, I didn't think of more of a genre of what my grandfather was singing at all. It just wasn't that. I would say it was a very selfish thing that I have gotten into this. It was more to basically to go on a quest to find myself. And out, when I was very, very young, or something very, I guess I was 5, my life was tremendously altered. And I was not the same person at all. Just one, it was Christmas Eve. And I remember watching my father. He was pacing back and forth. He was a sharecropper. And he only got paid once a year. And I remember my dad and my mom getting dressed up to go to town to buy our Christmas gifts and stuff. And he was just pacing back and forth. And he kept watching, looking at his watch. And it got to be like after a certain hour. And he turned to my mother and he said, Ann, if Mr. Glazier don't come soon, we're not going to be able to get our kids anything for Christmas. And so, and my mother being very calm and very just, she said, God, don't worry about it. He's going to be here soon. And we lived down this dirt road in Avalon behind, and I guess after a few 15 or 20 minutes or so, there was this big furrow of dust coming down the road, and we knew that, and my dad knew there was somebody coming there because you couldn't keep with that amount of dust. And that guy finally got there, and so he rolled up, and my dad came out to the truck, and whatever. And my dad was a short guy, but he was a proud man. My dad was. He was 5'5". Daddy John wasn't much taller than him, but to me, he was a giant because my dad had such. And he went up to the truck where the man was, and this man took out he had this clipboard, and he was calling out these things to my dad. And I was looking at him, and the more this man talked, I could see my father's shoulders just falling. And I don't know what that man said, really. But that man, when he backed out, my dad stood in the road. It seemed like to me hours before he turned around. And when he turned around, the dust had settled on his face. And I could see the track of tears when my father was crying. And he said, Ann, we're not going to be able to get our children nothing for Christmas. And my mother said, that's okay, God, that's okay, let's go. And it was like somebody turned out the lights in my heart and in my life. I was not the same at all. And that Christmas morning, I mean, Christmas was, everybody, it was just that. But it was not the same for me, ever. That Christmas, everybody got up and Dad had a paper bag and all of the toys and stuff on it. And my father was sitting in the window just watching the kids be joyful of whatever they had gotten. And I was standing in the corner, my dad said, who didn't get their stuff? Who didn't get their stuff? And my mom said, Francis, come get your stuff. And my dad was watching me so carefully as I came across the room. And he goes, go, get your stuff. And I looked in it, and I had this paper bag. And I pulled out this carousel top, little thing that you can push and just spin around. And then in the bag was a doll. She was gorgeous. It was the first doll I ever saw. She was beautiful. She had big bouncy curls. She had a matching dress, a little red dress, and she had a folded matches. She had ruffled socks and all of the stuff that she was beautiful. And oh God, and then I remembered the tears my father cried. And I stuck that doll back in the bag, and I could see my dad he flinched. He just flinched. And I said, oh, and so he was looking at me like, what? And I pulled her out, and I straightened up her dress, and I fixed her hair. And I carried that doll to my father, and I laid her on the lap. I said, Dad, I don't like this doll. Take her back. Get your money. And my father said, oh, he was just like, he just picked me up. He said, you little ungrateful girl. You little ungrateful girl. I never had a chance to tell my father. I understood. But I never played with another doll ever in my whole life. determined that day. Whatever made my father cry, it must have been something here. And I did not want to be in Mississippi anymore. And I held that for, oh God. And me understanding goes back to that question. I'm sorry, guys. But, it is that heart-to-heart connection. Yeah, it's an emotion, but I have been able to communicate with people all over the world through music. Daddy John, had it not been for him, I wouldn't have this opportunity. But it is greater than that. It is not. It's to me. It is something that politicians haven't been able to do. Religion hasn't been able to do it. Music speaks to the heart and soul, and you're right. It is colorless. It's raceless. It's all of that. It's not gender at all. I'm sorry, guys.